What is the moment when you start to overthink something? There is a moment, and it's important that you recognize that moment, because when you do, then you have some control. Then you have the ability to start pushing back against your anxiety and your fear. Now, there's something that you need to understand about two types of thinking. One is strategic thinking, and the other is overthinking. Now, strategic thinking is helpful and productive, and strategic thinking is making a plan that ends with an action step. Overthinking is very different. Overthinking leads to anxiety, it leads to worry, and eventually panic and paranoia, and a lot of stuff that we're seeing going on around here right now. So here's the moment that you want to pay attention to. Right? When you start to think through unhelpful, negative scenarios, stories that you're telling yourself in your brain, in your mind, that compel you to think about worst case scenario, negativity, all that kind of stuff. Let me give you an example. And this is more relevant to what's going on right now. Let's say you have a thought. And that thought is, do we have enough food and supplies to make it through the week? And then if you go into strategic thinking, what you're going to do in that moment is you're going to say, okay, well, what do I need to do? I need to look at everything that we don't have. I need to make a list. I'll plan a time to go to the store. And when I go to the store, I'll go get that stuff and we'll be good, right? That is strategic thinking. It ended in my next action step. And now you don't have to think about it anymore until it's time to go to the store. You already have your plan. Overthinking is when you have that same thought. I wonder if we have enough food and supplies to make it through the week. But then you go into these scenarios and these stories that are based in the future. They're not right now. Where you start thinking, well, what if we didn't have enough food? I mean, what if I have to look into my children's eyes and tell them that we don't have enough food for this week? What if I have to drive to 47 different stores to find this food because everybody's sold out? I might have to drive to another state. I might have to ask my neighbor and beg them for food to feed my family for the week. You see, it just goes on and on and on. It's these negative scenarios that aren't even realistic in the moment, all right? It's worry. And where it confuses people is they think it's productive because they think they're planning ahead, you know, by thinking of worst case scenario stuff and how to avoid it. But in actuality, all they're doing is working themselves up in anxiety and fear. And you've got to push back against that. So it's being able to recognize the moment that you're thinking through these negative scenarios that you're not even in right now, right? It's not leading to an action step. If you have productive thinking, it's going to lead to an action step. And so that's one of the things you need to do. Like for myself, when I catch myself in overthinking, I'm thinking through a scenario and all the bad things that could happen. I say, wait a second, no. You're making those stories up. You're thinking through those negative stories. Jonathan, you are overthinking. Stop and get focused on the action step. What is something that I can actually do about this? Well, right now, there's nothing I can do about it. Do I have a plan of how I'm going to get that food? Yes, I have a plan. All right, then I don't need to think about this right now. I'm going to focus on being thankful for the good things that have happened in my day. I'm going to just go and talk to somebody, or I'm going to focus on what I should be focusing on right now, which is my work, or it's my whatever it is, right? It takes some work, but I'm telling you, you can do this. You can pay attention and notice when you're getting into those unhelpful thoughts, that negative loop that I've talked about, that open loop of negative thinking where it's one more what if. What if this happens? Oh, well, if that happens, then I'll have to do this, and then I'll have to do this, and then what if this happens, and what if this happens, right? And it just spirals down into worry and worry. So if anything from this video, I want you to get that you need to start paying attention to that moment when you shift from strategic thinking to this unhelpful overthinking, right? Recognize that moment and then push back. And it does take a little work But what you're going to find is the more you do it, the easier it gets, and the more your anxiety starts to go down, because your brain is compelling you to think about this really negative, fearful, horrible thing that's going to happen, because if you don't, something really bad is going to happen, right? And when you push back and you say, brain, there's nothing I can do about that right now, and that doesn't lead to an action step, so I'm not going to think about it. And after the moment passes, you're going to be able to prove to yourself, prove to your brain, like, hey, look, I didn't think about it, and I'm okay. It worked out. I didn't have to spend time and worry over that situation because there wasn't anything for me to do in that moment. And I'm certainly not going to stay there and just sit in that anxiety and that fear. So I hope that helped you out. And if that's confusing in any way, please let me know. I'd be happy to explain it in a different way. But I'll stop there for now. Hey, you guys take care, be healthy, push back against that fear.